Well, hello there. My name is Solid, and by the title, you probably figured it out. But I'm here today to talk to you about how I came across Metal Gear Solid and how it shaped up my sort of virtual world persona. Why I addressed as Solid Snake and all that stuff. I just thought it would be a cool video to do. It's a different thing that I'm trying to do. I don't know if I'm gonna do clips, if I'm gonna do editing, or I'm just gonna probably do one take and just see how that goes. So I'm kind of nervous. It's new, but I'm excited, and I just think, you know what? It's a question people ask. They're always curious about it, and I think it's a cool story to share. Anyway, for me to tell you this story, I need to go way back in time, like back when I was a wee lad, like when I was a tiny kid, and so growing. I'm not sure if you know this, but growing up in Portugal when we were a kid is pretty awesome. I grew up in a village up north, and all other kids lived nearby, so we would get into our fair share of trouble, just playing outside, mostly playing football. But essentially, video games weren't really a thing. You'd had a couple of them, but mostly you just wanted to play outside. It's just in the rainy days that you had to be more creative, and video games would play a part. But usually video games were a thing for the rich kids, and I didn't really had any rich friends. You always had that one rich friend that had all the consoles. But I didn't really, for me, it was, okay, so get this. My mom used to work on Saturdays. She's a house cleaner. She used to work in this house where the boss had two kids. They were 4 and 6 years older than me, around that, and they were like huge house, all the consoles, and I'm like, whoa. And so since I couldn't be at home alone all day, and my dad was also at work on Saturdays, I would go with her and I'd stay there. At their place, and it was insane. It was like being inside a free arcade all day. They had, like, when I say all the consoles, not really, I don't think they were PlayStation. I don't know if the PlayStation was around at that time, but they had all the Segas from the Mega Drive, Genesis if you're in the US, from the Mega Drive to the Dreamcast. They had all the Nintendos. They had the PC games. It was mind-blowing. Like, I would stay there all day. I wouldn't play per se because I was a shy kid, and I was afraid that if I break maybe a controller or a console, my mom had to pay. So me being a little shy kid, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch. I'm just gonna have fun watching, and that's what I did. Anyway, I'm getting off track. This was, I was just watching. So I get home. I don't get home. Like, I go back in time to that place, right? The only consoles that I owned at the time was a Game Boy Color and one of those SNES knockoffs that you buy in flea markets that had those 9,999 in one cards. That it was basically Super Mario, but 15 different levels and colors. So that's the only two consoles that I own at the time. And I remember being at home during a school week alone, and my dad's boss calls, and it's around Christmas time, and he's like, do you know what he wants for Christmas? And I said, I remember seeing on the TV, seeing an ad for the PlayStation. And it came out of me. I was like, a PlayStation would be cool. Now, if you know me, which you don't at that time, but I wasn't gonna say that to my parents because I didn't want them to spend the money, I knew we weren't rich, so in my mind I was like, I better say nothing. So just let them give whatever they want to give me. So I think they set me up. They did this little trap, so they figured out what I really wanted for Christmas, and eventually I got the PS1. So yeah, Christmas Day, my dad had bought me the PS1, and then after Christmas, he gets me to go to a electronics store, a video game store, and he's like, you can pick one game, just pick any game you want, and you get to play it. So I knew nothing. Like I knew the Sega and Nintendo games. I didn't know much about PlayStation. So I went through a bunch of games, and my kid brain picked up something that it recognized, that was Micro Machines. So I got Micro Machines V3, was the first ever PlayStation game I ever owned. And once I got home, I played that game to infinity. Like I spent thousands of hours playing through Micro Machines V3. I called my mates who played against each other. It was great. Like I distinctively remember playing that game until the eventually, like it happens, I got bored of it. But my parents, they weren't really rich, and I wasn't gonna ask them for more games. I was always trying to be a little bit independent. Um, so I was trying to figure out, how am I gonna get new games for the PlayStation? Like none of my friends own the PlayStation, so how, like even my boss's kids don't own a PlayStation. How am I gonna get like games to play? So a couple months go by, and during the summer holidays, one of the things that I always did was I went to spend like 1 or 2 months of those summer vacations at my cousin's place, my older cousin. He's around like 6 years my senior. And I used to spend the summer with him all the time. I was to go to his place, and we would just get in all kinds of shenanigans. He's like the brother that I never had. So that year, I took my PlayStation to his place, so we can play together on vacation. And I got there, and I started talking to him, and I say, okay, the only game I own is Micro Machines, so that's the only thing I can play, blah blah blah. And he's like, yo, don't worry, I have a cousin on his side of the family. He owns a bunch of games. We can ask him for some. And I'm like, yes, thank you. I finally have someone around that has PlayStation games. I can trade. I can ask to borrow games. Yes, new things. So we go to his place, and I start rifling through a bunch of games that he has, and I picked up one of them. As soon as I picked it up, he says, "You know what? You could even keep that one. I hate it. It sucks." And by his words, my instinct reaction was like, yeah, I'm gonna put it aside. But I kind of hesitated, and my cousin says, you know what? You should take it. You might like it. I'm a little squeamish, because if he doesn't like it, why would I? You know, it's kind of, he's felt really strongly that he hates it. So, but then I started thinking, you know what? Even if it's a new game, so I would own 2 games now. So eventually I'm convinced. I take the game, and I think, you know what? We're just gonna get to my cousin's place. We're gonna play it together. And he's like, nope, we're not gonna play that one together, dude. You'll play when you get home. Let's just go play outside. I reluctantly agree, and I put the game down. I go play outside. We go be little shits doing our little activities in the outside world. And then the summer holidays end, and I get back home, and the first thing I remember doing was getting into my room, my little tiny TV, put the PlayStation down, put the Metal Gear CD on, and boot the game up. And as soon as the Konami screen shows up and the little Police Knots music starts playing, it grips me, and I start watching the cutscene. And my mind just explodes. I get mind blown just seeing these graphics. I see this old dude, which was Colonel, by the way, just talking. I see this whole spy thing going on. I see a little sub, a little missile under the water. I see this cool guy infiltrating whatever, swimming through the ocean. And I understand nothing, because I know zero English. I'm a tiny little kid. So I'm understanding nothing, but I get like instantly hooked on this thing. I start the start screen. I can't get out of it, because you need to press circle instead of X, and I didn't know it was a Japanese thing, so I just kept getting the press start button. So I press start, and I go back because I press X to start a new game. So, you know, never mind. Eventually I figured it out that I start the game, and I get into that tiny little area where you have 2 guards, and you have to wait until the elevator drops. but I didn't know what to do, so I thought I had to kill the guards to progress. So I killed the guards, and I still can't move. I'm just wandering around what I need to do, picking up rations. I figured out the little cool animation that you can do, that you can jump back into the ocean. Anyway, I can't figure out what to do because I don't know any English. Because if you could, you just hear in the codec that you have to wait until the elevator comes. Anyway, I somehow progress, and I remember being once again mind blown by the cutscene of Little Alaska. You know, in Shadow Moses, you see the not Little Alaska, no, the little snowy part, and you get to see the snow, you get to see the base of the, then you get to the armory, which was, I never felt, dude, going back to Shadow Moses and the weaponry, dude, seeing all the guards, the security cameras, all the metal, the tank hangar, the tank in the hangar, seeing the little guards wandering around, hearing snakes sound in the metal rafters, just blink, blink, you know. My mind was just blown. The whole atmosphere, the music, I was just engrossed in. I was super into it, and I was just stumbling, dying, and getting across the game as much as I could. And eventually, I get to my first big brick wall. Which we probably figured out if you don't play any English. It's kind of hard to get to the revolver ocelot fight because you need to figure out how to blow up the walls. So I get to the underground weaponry, and I start messing around, thinking I have to kill all the guards in Shadow Moses. So I went back, I tried to kill the guards. I go through every door, every little nook and cranny of the little initial Shadow Moses area, and I just can't progress. I start to get annoyed, I get frustrated, I started to think this game sucks, his cousin was right, this game is trash. Until one day, and I can't remember how I did it, but I remember I blew up a wall. I'm like, the walls blow up? So my brain did this thing, like when I was a kid, I played Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda, and I remember that if you bonked the wall with the sword, it would make a different noise in the walls that you could blow up with the bomb. So I thought, maybe this is like the Legend of Zelda, I just need to figure out which walls I can blow up. So eventually I figured out that you can knock on the walls if you press up against them and press circle, or you can just look at them and they look different. So eventually I figured that one out, and my God, that feeling was just wow. I found out a whole new area. This is insane. This is awesome. And I figured it out all by myself. Like, I asked my friends, no one knew what to do, no one could help. I don't think any of my friends understood English at the time. My cousin didn't want to help because he wanted me to figure it out by myself. So when I did it, it was crazy, dude. I felt amazing, and my reward was an awesome boss fight against Ocelot, and obviously the incredibly awesome cutscene where you see Ninja just slicing through all the wires and releasing President Baker. Obviously I don't understand what they're saying, but the visuals are just wow. My little kid mind is just exploding at each and every frame in that game. And I go through that part, then I start to love it. I start to love the feeling and love the game. And then again, I get stumped. Once again, another barrier. If you know the game by now, you know that the next part is where you need to call Meryl to open the cargo door. But they don't give you the codec for Meryl. But the president, before he dies, he gives you a disc, an item. There's an item called disc, or CD case, or Mo disc, or whatever it was, in your inventory. So I thought you had to take that item in the inventory, and I remember seeing computers around Shadow Moses, so I tried to put in CDs in the computers to get the codec to call this girl, or to open the cargo door, whatever it was. But I just couldn't figure it out. I just spent weeks and months not knowing what to do, and no one was helping me. So what am I gonna do again? I just spent weeks, days, months. I don't know how long it was. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember one time I was putting the CD back in the CD case, and I'm storing the CD case into the um, into the shelf. But and I noticed that in the back I see the little codec frame where it has Meryl in it and the number 140.15. And I know, like, when you own two games and you play one of them to hell and you can't progress in the second one, you just do everything that you can. So I just know that I have all the codecs that I could have, and I don't recognize that number. But I thought, wait a minute, there's no way the back of this CD case is gonna have the number that I need to use to progress. Maybe they put that on, like, by accident, and maybe this is it. So I put the codec in, and bam, I start talking with Meryl. The cargo door opens. Happy days. Another short of pure and amazing endorphins. I rush to tell my friends. I'm like, yo, do you know that blah 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 at the back of the CD case, it's how you figured it out? And they're like, nah, no way. They probably said it to you in the game, you just didn't pay attention. And you just got lucky. You just got lucky, dude. You didn't figure it out, just got lucky. So but I didn't care. I just wanted to progress, dude. So I was stunned that it actually worked. So I went from hate to love, back to hate, and now I'm back to loving this game because I progressed. And then we come across, probably, I mean, you probably know what probably are expecting, that I came across the boss fight that I actually changed the way I saw the game, which was Psycho Mantis. So Psycho Mantis was a fight that I spent probably months of my life when I was a kid trying to figure out. Because I could damage him, you know, you can still hit him a little bit, but you do like slivers of damage, and he's really tricky to hit. So I thought maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I'm still doing damage, so maybe I'm doing something right. But after spending weeks and months, you kind of start doubting you're doing the right thing. But one day I remember just eventually I started fading out of the game because I couldn't progress. I couldn't kill Mantis no matter what. But I had other games, and I started getting other games. And one of the games that I had was Pro Evolution Soccer 2, by the way. And I used to play it with my friends at my place. We had two controllers plugged in. You know where this is going. And we used to play it together. So I let the controllers plugged in, and if you know, like, once you die to Mantis a lot of times, you know that the kernel starts to call you to help, and my brain starting to do word association. Then I saw the words controller port 2. I remember seeing something, or switch controllers or something like that, and my brain was like, wait, should I play with a second controller? Does the game want me to play with another controller? So what I did was, I thought every time the screen showed the little black screen saying Hideo, I had to switch ports. That's exactly what I thought. I had to switch when the screen went black. And then, once again, I just... Dude, the feeling that I had once I switched the controllers and hit him again, I saw the chunk of damage being bigger, and hearing Mantis screaming like, oh, I can't read. You know, we couldn't read my mind anymore. I'm like, I figured it out once again. My kid brain, again, dude, was just blown to smithereens. I was truly in love with this masterpiece of a game. And I knew, from then on, I was just gonna have to play this game over and over again until I could understand what they're saying, because there's probably more things that I'm missing, right? So I died a bunch of times. I just continued until I saw the little... I remember seeing Snake and Meryl. I was blown away through the whole playthrough. My first playthrough of the game. I didn't even know how to finish it, but eventually I did. And I remember seeing Snake and Meryl on the jet ski, and I've been overflown with joy that I could actually finish this game. The little kid, without understanding a lick of English, I figured it out, and I did it. I absolutely did it. And I knew that I needed to do better. I need to understand. So I started to think like that Mantis thing. Like English was a puzzle for me. Like the pieces were the words, and if I could find the translation, I just need to put the right pieces in the right place, and I would figure out, what they want to say. And by this time, I remember I started to have English in school. It was around fifth grade, so what I would do was I would write all the text I've seen on screen, like the codec calls, the cutscenes on the bottom, the subtitles. I would write everything on my notepad, and I would bring it to my teacher. Like I was very nice to my teacher, and I asked her, I'm playing through this game. I don't know English, but I really want to know English. Could you please help me? Could you please translate this stuff? Because I want to know. I want to know who Snake is, who Meryl is, who's Liquid, what's Otacon's story, who's Frank Yeager. By the way, bringing the word deep throat to your English teacher in the fifth grade, yeah, that was a fun one. but I started to understand most of the story. Not a lot of it because it's a bit convoluted, but I started getting, the I don't know, the intricacies of the story, like Liquid, the betrayal, Liquid, the plot twist, Colonel's plot, and Naomi's betrayal, Naomi's story, which is often forgotten and is an amazing one. I started to understand the relationship between Snake and Grey Fox. Oh, dude, I started to understand the story from these allies, and my kid brain started to think, wait a minute, when I come to school, I'm a little bit like Snake. I distinctively remember feeling like that. I know kids are stupid, and I know this is I'm fully aware that this sounds super corny, but in my brain, I'm like, Snake got deployed alone to Shadow Moses, and I'm changed schools because I went from 4th to 5th grade, so it's a different school, and it was around that time. So I felt like I was Snake, but instead of Shadow Moses, I was alone in school, and me being a tiny little shy fat kid, I had my fair share of bullies. So the bullies were my boss fights, and the allies, my Naomis, my Otacons, were my friends, were the dudes that I had in my life that were actually cool with me and help me through, to conquer all the fears. And so I started to really feel like Solid Snake. I started to feel like, yeah, maybe if I'm like Snake, I would get the girl in the end. It hasn't happened yet, but maybe that will do it. Little kid brains doing associations. And apart from the cool, smoking and the being good at flirting with girls, I felt like I was Solid Snake. So that's why I chose Solid Snake and as my alias. And Metal Gear will always be my favorite game, and will always have a special place in my heart. And I know that I'll play it for, I don't know, until I die, probably. And I remember seeing this quote. I don't know where, I don't know who said it, but I remember seeing it, like, things themselves don't have meaning, but we as humans give meaning to things. So I think that's what I did with Metal Gear, and that's why it became such a huge part of my life. And yeah, without having boring you for more even more time, or getting this even more convoluted and already long story, that's how I came across Metal Gear, and that's how I chose Snake to be my alias. So I know they aren't watching, but I would like to give a huge thank you for Hideo Kojima to this for creating this amazing masterpiece franchise that is Metal Gear. And growing up and knowing more about the lore and all the troubles that he went through to create this amazing franchise, it makes me appreciate it even more. It's just pure love from my end. Also, a huge amount of love and respect to David Hayter. I know he's not going to hear this too, but his voice as Solid Snake, is just one of the most iconic voice acting jobs I've ever seen or and heard. And if I had his voice acting, his snake voice, I would never shut up in life. And I guess I owe a thank you to my cousin's cousin for giving me the game, and my cousin for being awesome and being right all along. Metal Gear is an awesome game. So yeah, this comes to a close. I hope it wasn't too preachy. I hope it wasn't too corny or anything. And I remember seeing a couple of videos, especially on Nakey Jakey, him talking about BioShock and what he experienced through it. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should tell my story and people will tell theirs. So tell me about your favorite game. Put it in the comments, do a video. I would love to hear your story about how your favorite game came to be. Just like I just did. I hope it was entertaining. I don't know how this is gonna come out. I'm just telling it myself. So please also in the comments, if you can, just give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. Give me constructive criticism. Tell me what I do good, what I could do better. So maybe I'll do some more story-like videos. And you can also join my Discord or watch me on Twitch. Links will be available in the description. So this is why I am attached to Metal Gear. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little piece of time you shared with me. I'll see you in the next one. Hit me up in the comments, don't forget. And I love you all. Peace out, my dudes.